Every year since 1976, Cycle World has done 10 best bikes.
Since 76.
76.
That's as long as I've been alive.
Kids today. I'm here with Justin Dawes. I'm Mark Hoyer, Editor-in-Chief. Justin Dawes is the Senior Editor of Cycle World. We have spent the past year testing motorcycles all around the world and in our own backyard to come up with 10 best bikes 2019.
It really is the culmination of every year of motorcycling for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
The whole time you're testing motorcycles, you're actually kind of thinking about 10 best.
Yep, and we do a lot of very specific, 10 best testing where we get the bikes, like we got to get the winners from last year, we got to get the new contenders together, and sometimes we don't even do a shootout that we've published. A lot of times we do. We strive to do that to get it on record and make our judgments and pronouncements and share the information with an enthusiastic motorcycle audience.
Yeah, this is not a list that's taken lightly and picked from the air. There's lots of meetings, there's lots of arguments, there's lots of discussion, there's lots of planning. It really is a year-round effort to get to these 10 bikes.
Yeah, I've seen a few in my day, and you would think, okay, 10 best bikes, 43 years, we'd have an even number. But there was one year where we had a tie, so it throws the list off.
So there's 431 bikes.
Something like that, yeah. So.
Nice.
Should we get into it?
Let's get into it.
All right. Best motocrosser.
Best motocrosser. One of the only dirt-heavy categories in 10 best now. You were saying in the beginning it was almost all dirt. Now there's quite a bit less dirt.
Yeah, first year, 1976, it was predominantly dirt categories, and it was really divided up. We had best light enduro and all these displacement categories, Makos, and things that would fit 500s, 250s, 125s.
Best Eastern European.
80s. Yeah, there was a lot of, but it reflected the popularity of that type of bike at that time as the category was exploding in the 70s. I mean, all motorcycling, but particularly in the dirt. So it was a foundation, and we have strived over the years to change the list to reflect what's actually going on in the market, what's selling, and what people are excited about, and the richness of a category. A number of years ago, we watched the middleweight category expand, and in size, not in model numbers, but in size, and we pushed up the middleweight displacement to just under 800 cc's to reflect what's going on.
Exactly. So that's why when we're talking about best motocrosser, it could be a 250, it could be a 450, it could be a 125. It's all lumped into one. And this year is the Kawasaki KX 450. No F anymore.
No F.
F's gone. F is gone. They dropped it this year. It's new from the ground up for 2019. We had a shootout. Usually is the basis for picking 10 best for a motocross bike. And
yeah, on a motocross bike, you got to hit the track a bunch of times. We rely on our dirt editor, Andrew Oldar, to get out there and pound those things around the Southland.
Yeah, and there's a lot of testing that goes on with it, and they take a lot of notes. It's actually a very big endeavor for Andrew at Dirt Rider. So for 2019, it's a new bike, like we said. They've changed up quite a bit of things on the bike, one of them being the front suspension. They got rid of the air fork and went to a spring fork again, and it seems it helped quite a bit in its ranking. Yeah,
big benefit there with the bike, and also essentially, there wasn't anything that particularly stood out with the bike. KX was noted for being really narrow, having roomy ergonomics, but really bottom line was the tremendous balance achieved. It did have a really good bottom end hit. It was, not the most powerful, but one of the most powerful in terms of outright horsepower. But they liked the over rev. They liked the way the bike picked up. It did have strong bottom end, but it wasn't lurchy. It was easy to control, and that's kind of the watchword of that bike. These bikes now are so explosive and so fast and so much power. I think it was in the kind of 53 horsepower range, 52.6, I think. A ton of horsepower, right? Like. Yeah, amazing. So the ability to control, and that overall balance and overall package is really what got the KX the win this year.
Perfect, yeah, and it had some extra features on top of it. Electric start, finally, hydraulic clutch. So it's adding quite a bit of new features, and it's just an overall balanced bike, like they said. So winner. All right, let's move on to the next one.
One of my favorite categories, even though I'm a big gorilla.
Me too.
I love a lightweight street bike.
Everyone should love a lightweight street bike.
So the qualities, you know, the qualities in the lightweight class, we want a motorcycle, a lightweight, to be welcoming to new riders, but we'd also like that bike to be satisfying for experienced riders. And you might have one year where you get a out of the gate beginner bike that's phenomenal, and it's just good for beginners, and it's a great place to start motorcycling, and bravo. But this year what we have is a motorcycle that kind of does it all. It really does it all.
It really does. And it's based off the bike that we said pretty much did it all last year, which was the Ninja 400, Kawasaki Ninja 400. So this year, Z400.
Z400.
Naked version.
Naked version, taller handlebar, wide handlebar, killer ergonomics. The eye opener for me is I did enjoy that bike on the street. Phenomenal. Very good displacement size. Don't change it. Don't make it Z425, Z493, Z whatever.
Stop the displacement
Just
creep.
right there. It's so good. It's such a nice bounce because it's really tractable and easy to ride off the bottom, but it makes all the power you need on the street to enjoy the bike. But when we did our track day last year, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go ride this little Z400 out on the track, and I had a ball. Like, it is really fun. It is so easy to ride fast.
It is.
And such a great size.
I mean, everyone that came off that bike at Hack Day, Track Day, was like, you gotta go ride that thing. You gotta try it. And there was a waiting list for that bike pretty much, because once you came off the track and was like, oh man, and then our photographer Jeff Allen went and rode it, and he was like, man, you gotta ride this. And I had no plans of riding it that day. I wanted to stick to all the big super bikes and all the cool stuff. And I went and rode that, and it was one of the most fun bikes I had the whole day.
Right, and that was the case for all the riders of
Everybody.
all the skill levels. That was the real benefit there. So you have all these other great qualities in the Z400, like low price, easy to ride, nice ergonomics. Like I said, I'm a big gorilla, but it's a great size. I'm very comfortable on it. I could easily live with that bike all day, every day.
Yeah.
And can't beat the price.
Absolutely, yeah. The price, it's $500 less than a Ninja 400 when they're both equipped with ABS. Yeah. So, really good bike.
Another great all-around category. Best standard.
Yeah.
Best standard.
That's a very wide open category.
Well, that's the beauty of it, is it could be just about anything. Pretty much wanted to have, a tubular handlebar. I think we probably had cases where it's not been a true tubular handlebar, but
Tall
want it to be,
clip-ons or something,
it used to be the universal Japanese motorcycle, but you want a motorcycle that kind of hits that middle ground. It can do almost anything. You could put bags on it, you could throw a fairing on it, and you could ride to Yuma if you had to.
Sure.
You could sport ride with it. You could just grind it out on the freeway commuting.
Yeah, I mean, so this category could be really even called best all-rounder.
Yep.
In a way. What was the winner?
Triumph Scrambler 1200 XE.
As in Edward.
Edward.
Yeah. Echo, not Charlie.
Yeah, you got a lot of seat time on this bike. Why don't you take us down the path?
I've spent quite a bit of time on this bike this year. First went to the press launch in Portugal and had phenomenal 3 days on the bike. I was immediately blown away with torquiness of the motor, the tractability of it, but also the light feeling of it. I mean, it's a big bike. It's still 525 pounds, I believe. I mean, it's in that big bike weight category, but it doesn't carry it like that. It feels like a gigantic dirt bike.
And did we not see you sending it on a track?
Yeah, we actually rode it on a motocross track. We rode it on single track. I mean, it'll do everything, but then on the street, it's a really nice street bike. And it's finished nicely. It's put together really well. I mean, you could ride it to like the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride or something with a suit on, and then you would look perfect on it. Yeah. But then you could throw on dirt bike gear and go out in the dirt with it, and everything in between. It's just, it's an unbelievable bike. It's one of the shining, I think, motorcycles of 2019.
Scrambler presentation, like it's in the truest terms of Scrambler from back in the day. They were sort of the first dual sport bikes.
Yeah.
It's ridiculously large, and yet at the same time, what you say, that lightness and the agility and the way the torque is delivered and its overall personality and the proportions and everything, it's really nailed it.
Yeah, and it's easy to ride around town. You've got all your ride modes. You've got all the things that kind of you would expect on an adventure bike. Ride modes, ABS, lean sensitive traction control, lean sensitive ABS, all that stuff. So your everyday ride on it is golden, but then like I said, you could take it and what we did. We went and we rode all the way down through Baja with it.
Yep.
It handles everything. It's a great all-rounder bike, which makes
Yeah.
it an amazing standard.
And amazing standard that you could really adventure tour with if you wanted.
You could do just about anything you wanted on
And
that
we
bike.
even we had those arguments about like, well, where would we put this? Would we put, is this what new adventure might look like? Is this the way we should go? It's lighter, it's whatever, but
Yeah.
it's a killer best standard winner
Yeah,
for
if it's in there, absolutely.
Yep.
So, following up best standard, we move into a bike that you spent a lot of time on for best touring.
I have ridden many, many versions of the BMW GS models. The changes were not all new. It wasn't an all new bike for this year, but putting shift cam into the 1250 GS Adventure was really a revelation in the performance of the bike, and it broadened the capability of that bike.
Yeah.
The smoothness, the refinement, the ability in the dirt just to chug it out at low RPM, that precision of throttle in like sand and rocks, you could just throw that thing in, because they're very big, it's a very big motorcycle, but I mean, we rode it everywhere from 90 mile an hour, two-wheel sand, just ripping through cactus, to really pretty technical, just beat you up. We had TKC 80s on the Adventure, and I was riding the bike with the taller seat and stuff for the big fella
big
setup,
kit.
but amazingly capable in all of that, but also massively refined on the road, and like two up. We gave it to it because of that huge spread of capability. There are street luxury tours that you could easily say, you know what, I'm going to be more comfortable with the lower seat height or whatever, but you want luxury touring that does it all, it's right there in the GS.
Yeah, it's got everything you need. It's got an amazing like TFT dash with all the stuff that you would need. You've got your heated grips, you've got adjustable windscreen, and the ergos are actually nice when you're moving as a touring bike, because you have a high seat, low pegs, wide bars. You're not, you're just sat nicely on the bike, which makes covering lots of miles easy. And you got a massive tank on it to do that.
Yeah, totally. A bigger tank than you could arguably need.
Yeah,
So.
I would probably need to pull in before I ran out of fuel most of the times on that bike.
But yeah, I usually, for best touring bike, it's a lot of times the question is, if you had to be, in Yuma from LA by tonight, which bike? What are you picking? That kind of thing. And I think, well, I could do that. And I could do some on the dirt if I felt like it.
Exactly.
I could do that plume of dust in the distance that everyone else on the road sees, like, who is that? That'd be me going over the range, right?
Exactly.
So
cool.
I think a totally worthy 2019 winner.
Absolutely. From dirt back to dirt and street. Best enduro / dual sport. This has been a perennial. It wins almost all the time. Last year it didn't. Last year we used a different model, but once again, 500 EXCF KTM.
Yep,
Best dual sport.
Orange Dynasty. If you've been out riding dual sport anywhere, what do you see? I see a pack of 10 KTM 500s coming down, and the guys are kitted in KTM gear, and it's like, it speaks to that singular focus, this whole kind of ready to race notion, how they've just zeroed in on high performance. And like you think, a few years ago I thought, man, this 500's amazing, it won, and then 17 pounds lighter. So there's some,
it's 17 pounds lighter.
Yeah, I mean, it continues to progress and to get better and better and to be more and more capable.
And more capable with tighter regulations in terms of emissions and things like that, which is really a pretty amazing thing too, is that it got lighter, but it also passes emissions. We did a shootout in Utah, Moab, Utah, on that bike against three rivals, Husqvarna, Honda, and Beta. And this year we weren't really sure which one was going to win, because the Beta got a little bit lighter. We had the new Honda, and still, at the end of the day, everyone wanted to be on the KTM.
Yeah, it really takes kind of enduro race bike and throws lights at it. Squeaks it under the wire and gets us, allows us to ride on the street. I like commuting on it, but really it's just a wickedly awesome trail connector.
It really is. It's really good for connecting trails, and it's fun to ride on the street. You're riding down the road and you see a policeman and you're like, oh, because you feel like you're on a full-on dirt bike, motocross bike. You're like, oh wait, it's all good. I'm on the KTM.
Yeah.
So once again, I don't know how many wins in the last 5 years, but it's a majority of the last 5 years for sure.
It's crushed it. It's a
Yep.
killer bike. As much as I like a small bike, I do like a middleweight. Best middleweight street bike is for a long time that category was A, limited to 600, B, because of the performance wars in the 600 class. You just over and over again, we were drawn to these razor sharp, super fast, high tech bikes, and that's changed. That's changed, and and then we stretched the displacement as the middleweights kind of expanded and started to push into the 800cc range. The Triumph Street Triple R is a phenomenal value and incredibly precise and super comfortable. So completely modern, super sporty, rip it up standard bike with an amazing sound and stellar performance. As a Triumph owner, like I used to have a 58 Triumph Trophy, I've ridden a bunch of different vintage Triumphs, Bonnevilles. The bike really strikes me as the true spiritual successor to the Bonneville, because that was such an all-around capable, sporty motorcycle. And it just, for me, I get on that and I think this is like the spiritual home of Triumph. I love all the classics and all that. They're great bikes and they're doing great stuff all around. But that bike is like, poof.
Yeah, it's the evolution of Triumph, really. And it's a great all-rounder. Again, like you said, it's a sporty bike. It's one of probably the greatest sounding engines. I mean, when we have a discussion of what sounds great and what bikes have character, Triumph's triples are always in that discussion.
And this one backs it up with numbers, right? Really good performance, and then, track performance. When this iteration, like road test editor Don Canet took it, rode it on the racetrack in Spain and all that, he was like, I can't believe this thing, So it's this is building on that previous success, and now particularly with the larger displacement, it's a really great balance.
It is a really great bike. So from there, middle class, we go to open class, big dogs. And this has always been a piece that sometimes we picked an R1 for this at one time.
Sure.
So it's also a kind of a more of an open format.
We've had the big dogs, large displacement. It kind of gives us a place to recognize those bikes. Kind of everything. I mean, a GS has won in best open class before.
Goes back to kind of when we moved from a sport touring category to open class, it kind of kicks back to sport touring.
Yep.
And that's the KTM Super Duke GT, which got redesigned for 2019. And it was not met with much fanfare, even from KTM. Like, they didn't really talk about it much, but it's a big difference from 18 to 19. This is a much better motorcycle. We're talking, you've got one of the funnest engines around. You got an LC8 1301cc engine. It's just a torque monster. It's the same engine that's used in the Super Duke R. It's got a little less power, but it actually delivers the torque sooner, so it's even more kind of stonking. But at the same time, it can be a gentle giant. And that's what's really cool about this bike is you have all the touring comfort. You've got a larger tank, you've got wind protection, you've got an adjustable windscreen, heated grips, all that good stuff. A gigantic TFT screen that you wish was touchscreen because it's so big. And at the same time, you've got a bike that can absolutely rip when the road gets twisty.
So straight line comfort, big buckets of torque, smooth, precise chassis, luggage to take it with you.
Yeah, and the interesting part about the chassis, you've got electronically adjustable suspension, so you can change up. And on a lot of electronic suspensions, sometimes you get a little bit of disconnect from the road to the rider. And what was impressive to me about this bike is that you still have that connection. You still can feel what the front wheel is doing and what the rear tire is doing. Like, it just feels a little more connected and taut than some of the other bikes that have that kind of system. KTM didn't say much about it, but to us, it's definitely the best open class bike this year.
Oh, this was a hard-fought class. Moving on. Best cruiser. You get into such a strange territory, because what we like to do here is we love numbers, we maintain a facility with a photo cove, with lighting, and in the next room is the Cycle World dyno, where we have tested over the years thousands of motorcycles and gotten numbers on, and we go to the expense of renting a test facility to get numbers. We go to a test facility, we get braking numbers, and we use our Moto America approved stock 1000 racer Michael Gilbert.
Yep.
And he goes out, Don Canet comes in and helps us out, and we get numbers. So we're very cognizant of actual numbers. We weigh the bikes, all that stuff that we do. And yet you get into cruisers, and it can be really spacey, because there is a thing called soul.
Yeah.
And so we struggle with that every time we sit down to pick a cruiser, just because of that, because it can be counter to the numbers. In this case, this year, the numbers do support the decision, as well as kind of a spiritual essence that kind of knocked it out of the park.
Yeah. So that bike is the Ducati Diavel 1260S. Kind of an interesting pick because it's like the most extreme, lightest, most powerful. It kind of moves the segment a little bit, and then you are left going, well, what about the soul? But it's got soul. It's got Italian soul.
Yeah, it does. It's basically Italy coming at the cruiser box from obviously the superbike direction. It's a previous 10 best winner for similar reasons. You know, the models evolved. What we liked about this model was that displacement boost and the refinement boost. So what we ended up with was an incredibly wide performing, highly powerful V-twin with Ducati variable timing. And so you have this incredible smooth refinement, but you also have this explosive nature. And you look at that bike, and it doesn't necessarily evoke the kind of Route 66 American Big West going straight roads, but at the same time you get on the bike, it's particularly when you throw the clutch, and you're blown away at how fast and how fun and how light it is. One of the things that I wish that other cruiser manufacturers, V-twin manufacturers, would really look at is, let's start with weight as a priority, because everything benefits. This thing is significantly lighter than the competition. It has all the presence you would ever want, but then you pick it up off the side stand and you're like, wow, this is great. You know? So,
yeah, it's quite a bit lighter. And even if you didn't gain any more performance, just it being a lighter, easier handling bike because of that makes a huge difference. And then you've got the handling characteristics. I mean, it has a cruiser silhouette. You're still kind of upright, leaned back. Your legs aren't, completely underneath you. And you've got this nice wide bar. So that cruiser silhouette's there. That cruiser feel is there. But then when you hit a corner, definitely notice the Ducati-ness of it. That it's got this huge, gigantic rear tire on it, and it still goes around a corner amazingly well.
With an incredible ride from Olin suspension, and then you got extremely high-grade Brembo brakes, beautiful brake feel. All of it puts together into a wonderful dynamic package that.
It definitely, like I said, it moves the segment to kind of a new place that we hope other manufacturers will go to that space a little bit. All right, one of my favorite segments. This segment is me. This is my favorite type of motorcycle, and that is best adventure.
How can you not love an adventure bike?
For me, they're the best all-rounders that there are. Dirt capability, street capability, everything in between. And I just enjoy the seating position of them. I like the way they ride. And for this year, KTM has kind of pushed that segment even further into the extreme category with the 790 Adventure R. It is, I said it in my first ride, which it's very tough to make it a definitive statement in a first ride, because you have kind of a shorter ride usually, and you're around all this fanfare, and you don't want to say, this is the new standard, or this is the new best. But I said it in my first ride because it blew me away, and it just moved the bar. It raised the bar so high that it might take a little while for other manufacturers to catch up.
Worth the wait, I guess.
Was it worth the wait?
It took a while to get this one out, but
it was
really
a long tease, which seems to be KTM's MO and some other manufacturers now too.
For sure.
Long tease of adventure bikes, and that's because it's such an important segment. It's such a growing segment they don't want to lose any customers. They want to grab you and hold you as long as they can to buy their product. So they're teasing bikes early and earlier. This bike we waited quite a long time for, and once we did, it was phenomenal. Runs the new LC8C engine, which is the parallel twin. It's the second bike in the KTM lineup that has that engine, and it's really well suited to this type of bike. It's got great power delivery. It's very manageable, but then it also has a great top end for street work. But in the dirt,
talk to me about the size. To me, I love the big adventure bikes. I love your GS. Obviously, we picked one in a roll this year. 1290s. Love those over the years.
Yeah.
1090. There's lots of iterations of adventure bike that have performed very high and been really satisfying and done lots of good things. But to me, this 800 range is I feel like this is where it all should happen.
Yeah, it's a sweet spot, right, for sure.
It's got everything you need to, I mean, you can load the bike up, you can put a passenger on the back, and it's not going to labor. And then when you pick your R model and you want to get out there into God knows where. Yeah,
it performs, and it's light. It's 463 pounds full of fuel, which drops it way below any of the other larger bikes. And you really feel it. It feels like a big dual sport with the suspension it has on it. It's got the same suspension that's on the 500 EXE. It's got the same exact equipment on an adventure bike, and it really works well in the dirt. It's plush over big bumps, but it also doesn't bottom out like other big adventures do. You have that point on an adventure bike when you're riding off-road and you're getting a little bit excited. You push it a little bit too far and a little bit too hard, and then you hit a big bump, and then it reminds you, hey, I can hurt you.
Oh, yeah.
And this thing you don't have that as often or as early.
Yeah, as soon as you said that, I went back to clanking and knocking a molar out almost. So I totally
so overall, it raises the bar again. It's got a great engine. It's got a small package. It's got some really crazy features on it, like the tank being down low.
Yeah.
So the weight is carried down low, which helps with that weight transfer and the feel of it being much lighter. And it just overall, it's an amazing adventure bike.
Really pointed design focus.
Yes.
Resulting in a phenomenal adventure bike.
Yep. So we're on the last category, the most important, the one that everyone likes to pay attention to, even though they may not be ready for this bike.
The best superbike, of course, is superbikes are not for everybody. They're as focused as a 450 in some ways. You can't ride them on the street, but we take our superbike shootouts real seriously. We invest days and days of testing on the track. We rent big facilities for multiple days. We make videos, we dyno test, we performance test. Sometimes we try a motorcycle that is so phenomenal and so rare, we know the answer. And in this case, this is the Ducati Panigale V4R, the homologation special, the 1000cc that has wings.
Yeah.
And Don Canet, longtime road test editor, went to Italy to test this bike on the track. And he is the poster child for harsh clinical detachment. And that's one of the great things about Don.
Yeah, not exactly jaded, but more just
he
matter of fact.
He absolutely has an unparalleled back catalog of testing every phenomenal production and low production or non-production motorcycles. He has all the experience in the world, and when that guy comes back from a press launch on a Ducati V4R and says, "This thing was amazing. I've never felt so good entering a corner on a bike as this," and the way that the power came in and the TC and all the things he said, there was kind of a done deal at that point.
Yeah.
In the shootout in the magazine and what you'll see online, we made a vote there for bikes that were similar in price and the thing you could buy. And V4S, 1103cc, love that. I like the 1000. I like this kind of bike because I think it's sort of like, I don't know, poetry within the form. Like the limitation is where the genius comes out.
Exactly.
Like when you do haiku, it's not Ulysses, it's not 10,000 words.
Yeah.
It's exactly what fits in the box, and like we're fitting the rules and we're making this thing that's a weapon than that, and this is the most beautiful expression of that this year.
Yeah. think that's the easiest way to put it. I don't think we have to put any more words to it.
Yeah.
That's put a good point on it. So that's it.
And there you have it, 10 best bikes 2019.
Awesome. This was a good time. If you like what we're doing, hit the like button, subscribe, share with your friends. And if you have comments, which we know you will, go ahead and put them down below, and we will see you next time.